In this chapter, we'll talk about leveraging secondary brand associations to build brand equity. A secondary brand association occurs when a brand is linked to another entity that has its own knowledge structure in the minds of consumers. Brands can use secondary brand associations to build brand equity. Because of the linkages between the brand and another entity, consumers may assume that some of the associations that characterize that other entity are also representative of the brand. As an example of a secondary brand association, consider that since many people associate luxury clothing as being designed and made in Italy, brands designed and made in Italy tend to be viewed as more luxurious. There are three factors that are often used to assess to what extent and how a brand will benefit by linking itself to another entity. The first is awareness and knowledge of the entity. There must be awareness and knowledge of the entity in order for a brand to benefit by linking itself to the entity. The more aware of the entity and the more strong and plentiful are those positive associations, the more it is that the brand will stand to benefit by linking itself to that entity. The second factor is meaningfulness of the knowledge of the entity. The entity and the associations attached to it should appear relevant to the brand. If they don't appear relevant, they are unlikely to matter. The third is transferability of the knowledge of the entity. In order for the brand to benefit by linking with the entity, the knowledge of the entity must transfer. This is shaped to a degree by the meaningfulness of the knowledge of the entity, and that more relevant and meaningful knowledge is more likely to transfer. Transferability of the knowledge of the entity is also shaped by awareness and knowledge of the entity, and that greater awareness and stronger associations are more likely to transfer. It's also shaped by marketing programs and how effective branders are at communicating the linkages between the entity and the brand. The figure here shows various means through which knowledge regarding an entity may impact knowledge regarding the brand. Notice also that how knowledge is regarding the brand can impact the entity. We can associate awareness, attributes, benefits, images, thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and experiences from one entity to a brand or from a brand to an entity. For example, by Red Bull associating itself with extreme sports, Red Bull takes on associations related to youth, radicalness, energy, exhilaration, and so on. Secondary brand associations can come from many different things. These things can include who makes the product, where the product is made, where it's purchased, or other things. Some examples of entities that a brand can associate itself with include its own brand and/or others in the company, countries or geographical regions, channels of distribution, other brands, characters, spokespersons, events, third-party sources, and so on. Also notice that how it is that Apple names some of its offerings results in transferability of meaning between those offerings. The iPhone, the iPad, the iMac, that I before each one of these products is a way of helping the attributes, the characteristics, the associations transfer across those. Another secondary brand association type is the country of origin and or other geographical areas. Beliefs about the quality of certain types of products or attributes can be perceived from the country of origin or other geographical brand associations. Consider, for example, that when we often associate purity and freshness with Fiji water, in large part because of the images invoked when we think of the location Fiji. In the US, we often will think of companies that started in Silicon Valley as being more innovative, disruptive, and authentic to tech because of other companies that originated or are based in the Silicon Valley. Coors Light, a beer manufacturer, often associates itself with a snowy mountain range because the mountain range invokes associations of cold, freshness, and naturalness, which are things valued by the purchasers of beers. Branders should give careful consideration to when and how to emphasize country of origin or geographical location. At a time when patriotism is high, brands originating within a country may want to emphasize that to their consumer base. Brands should also think about whether the image and the associations connected to a country or geographical region are relevant and favorable for the brand in the particular product. The more this is so, the more the brand should emphasize country or a geographical region in its marketing efforts. Of course, if that country or that geographical region is not perceived favorably, then the brander would not want to emphasize that in their communications. Channels of distribution also serve as a valuable secondary brand association. A consumer may infer certain characteristics about a brand on the basis of where it is sold. That's why manufacturers, and particularly manufacturers of products that have great concern about awareness and image, put considerable thought into where their products are sold. Consumers may perceive the same brand differently depending on whether it's sold in a store that's viewed as luxurious, prestigious, and exclusive, or in a store that's designed to appeal to the masses and has many other products at affordable price points. Consumers may also perceive a brand differently depending upon whether it's sold in a store that sells many different product categories or a single product category. For example, a soccer ball manufacturer who only sells its products in sports stores may give the impression to consumers that their brand is more authentic than a soccer ball manufacturer that sells its soccer balls in any store that they can get their products in. Consumers may also perceive the same brand differently depending upon whether it's purchased face-to-face or online. In face-to-face, the brand tends to have greater control over the environment within which the purchase experience occurs, and therefore may be able to subject the consumer to greater influence. Another second brand association opportunity is co-branding. Co-branding occurs when two or more existing brands are combined into a joint product or are marketed together in some fashion. An example of co-branding is Red Bull and GoPro. Both Red Bull and GoPro complement each other because they're both focused on extreme sports and they have many similar things in terms of the types of demographics they're looking for, the messages that they're trying to communicate, etc. Now, I want to point out that there are a lot of advantages to co-branding. So these advantages include the ability to leverage the brand equity of another, the ability to reduce costs in terms of introducing a product since you may be able to pool resources. They also offer the potential to expand brand meaning into new categories. Also, it could broaden meaning regarding your brand. It could expose you to new potential customers and also increase your revenue. But there are disadvantages, and those disadvantages to co-branding include a loss of control, since now your brand can be held responsible for the actions of your partner. Also, a risk of brand equity dilution, in that if that brand is not perceived as well as yours, a lack of brand focus and clarity if consumers don't see the clear connection between what it is that you're doing and your brand. And they can also serve as an organizational distraction if they take your people away from doing what it is that they should be doing in order to maximize brand equity. Another secondary brand association form is ingredient branding. In ingredient branding, you're creating brand equity as a result of materials, components, or parts that are contained within the branded product. Now, these branded ingredients are often a means of signaling quality, and the uniformity and predictability of ingredient brands can reduce risks and reassure consumers, so they can make consumers feel more comfortable and confident with your products. They also can have ways of being able to create awareness and image for your brand. For example, by PepsiCo emphasizing here that Pepsi Cola is made with real sugar, it's giving the impression that maybe its beverage here is not as unhealthy as people might think it ought to be, and also that it's authentic. Here, a computer manufacturer is using ingredient branding to emphasize that there is an Intel Core i7 processor inside of its computer. And so therefore, it's being able to communicate that the processing power of the computer, the performance is going to be high. Now, branded ingredients often, but not always, serve as a cost-effective way for a brand to differentiate itself from other brands. Brands should be more inclined to use branded ingredients when brands feel confident that the ingredient to be branded matters to consumers, the branded ingredient offers some type of significant advantage over the alternatives, and the branded ingredient can be communicated effectively so that consumers can learn about it in a cost-effective manner. Celebrity endorsements are also a form of secondary brand associations. Celebrity endorsements occur when a brand is using a well-known or an admired person in order to promote their brand. The idea being that that famous person is going to expose the brand to a larger base of people and also result in some associations and judgments and feelings being reaffirmed or being attributed to the particular brand. Some challenges with celebrity endorsement is that celebrities can endorse so many products, right? People may view their endorsements as being opportunistic or as being insincere. There also needs to be a clear match between the celebrity and the brand that they're endorsing. For an example of a clear match between a celebrity and a brand, consider the relationship between Colin Kaepernick and Nike. Right? Colin Kaepernick and Nike both closely aligned with athletics and also both emphasize social messages. So Colin Kaepernick is a very good fit for what Nike's looking to accomplish. Another concern about celebrities, though, is that celebrities can get in trouble or lose popularity. And so brands need to be very conscientious that they're choosing the right celebrity endorser. Sporting, cultural, or other events can also serve as a means for a brand to create brand equity. Brands can associate themselves with the events and therefore take on the associations that are often attributed to those events. Can also expose them to a larger group of people. So there's both awareness and image benefits of associating to the right sporting, cultural, or other events. As an example of a common event that companies will attach themselves to is the Super Bowl. And this is very true with breweries. A lot of breweries will do a lot of commercials during Super Bowls in an attempt to try to closely connect their product to the sporting event in the Super Bowl. So when people think about beer and they think about Super Bowl, then their brand comes to mind. The last secondary brand association that I'll emphasize, third-party sources. So branders can create secondary associations by linking their brand to various third-party sources. And these third-party sources can serve to be particularly credible. And so they're often featured in advertising or marketing campaigns. An example of a third-party source is the Michelin star. We also see this in green products. Here is an example with animal welfare approved. So this is a third-party source that essentially indicates that the animals that were used to create that product lived a humane life. And so therefore, it helps the product appeal to people that are concerned about the quality of life that the animal lived. And therefore speaks something about the company's morals, because the company was willing to source its products or have its animals live in a humane manner.